Michael's Minty Media and my overall review of Star Wars Rebels. Rebels is an interesting show. It was coming right off the heels of Clone Wars, which ended sort of unexpectedly and incomplete-ish. For that reason, the show was kind of hated by some people, especially after the first season, mostly to the fact that it really was not as good as Clone Wars. And anyone who sort of thinks that it's as good as the entirety of Clone Wars is you should ask them why they think that. However, they stuck with it. They didn't just quit after the first season kind of flopped. And 4 seasons later, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good show. However, it's always going to be in the shadow of Clone Wars, and it was never good enough to pull itself out of that, that looming shadow. However, I actually saw some of the. Anyway, I actually saw some of the first and second season when it came out in 2015. I did kind of like it, but I wasn't really in the target demographic anymore, and I had other stuff going on. I didn't really have time to keep up with that TV show. I kind of wish I had stuck with it, but I don't feel like I missed out on anything by watching it a few years later. And yeah, for Clone Wars, it's a little bit different. I kind of do wish I had stuck with Clone Wars more, but for some of the, I am glad that I don't know. That's an interesting question, but I don't feel I missed anything from Rebels by watching it a few years later. The show is okay. It's basically about the same as Clone Wars in its sort of kid friendliness and content. The main difference I would say is that Rebels pretty much had to come up with almost all original characters, while Clone Wars has the basic Obi-Wan and Anakin dynamic that is present in episode 2 and 3, and not really in episode 1. But Clone Wars basically, and other characters that were already made in the prequels. One of the main reasons Rebels is interesting because it's located at sort of a pivotal point in the current, Disney canon timeline, which allowed them to bring back Clone Wars characters to use in Rebels and potentially continue to use them in the future. Characters like Captain Rex and Ahsoka that theoretically would have been in this sort of like, I guess they could show up in The Mandalorian or the sequels, but you never know because it's been a while. Instead, they were like, yeah, let's put them in Rebels to show that they're still around and they're still doing stuff, and sort of explain where that they're still around. Anyway, I kind of liked Rebels, but if I'm being honest, it isn't really a show I would suggest to anyone. I wouldn't, put it forward as this great thing. It's fine, but there's tons of better Star Wars content. There's also tons of worse Star Wars content. So Rebels kind of fits into this middle, sort of okay to pretty good Star Wars, area, which a lot of Legends material falls into, and some of the new Disney stuff falls into as well. First, let's discuss how Clone Wars ended, because Clone Wars was canceled in 2014 with the final sixth season. It was the sixth season was pretty good, but you can tell it was that the show got canceled. That they had other ideas before they got canceled. A lot of the same people who worked on Clone Wars then went on to work on Rebels, basically just being rehired by Disney in the form of after they bought Lucasfilms. This makes Rebels feel like Clone Wars, kind of a Clone Wars copy-ish. It really feels like, when they were, back in 2007 or 2006 when they were pitching shows to make, their number one option was Clone Wars, and the second or third option was Rebels. And then after they canceled Clone Wars, Disney went back to the drawing board and, they pitched Rebels again, and Disney took it up that time. You can tell Clone Wars is the top option, and Rebels feels like an alternate option that they didn't go with back in 2008. There's probably an interesting alternate universe where Rebels came out in 2008 and was probably a bit different and probably a lot better, and yeah. But anyway, Rebels end up drawing sort of heavily from Clone Wars, both stylistically and literally, with lots of Clone Wars characters returning, basically to prove that they're still around after the 15-year gap between. Some people love this, some people hate this. I don't mind it. It hurts the show if you try to compare it to Clone Wars, but in my opinion, I don't think Rebels was ever gonna be better than Clone Wars. They would have to do something, drastic to make it stand out. All right, so Rebels has 4 seasons. The first and the last are shorter, and the second and the third are normal length compared to seasons of Clone Wars. Rebels can be so with this. Rebels can be very effectively divided down the middle into season 1 and 2, the first half, and season 3 and 4, the second half. In this section, I will be discussing season 1 and 2, the first half. Season 1 is probably the worst season of the bunch, which isn't a great setup. But if you remember, Clone Wars also started pretty poorly with the movie. It's not very good. Season 1 and 2 basically just sets up the characters and relationships. It's very effective at this, but it pretty much ignores certain character development for anyone but Ezra, which isn't great if you don't like him. But he is the main character. The Inquisitors are not great villains. They're kind of on par with seasons 1 and 2 Clone Wars villains, which makes sense. The Grand One is probably a decent villain, but he dies at the end of the first season, and the replacements are lacking. They're not good. They're stupid looking and not good. Agent Callus is actually probably the main villain of the first 2 seasons, and he's a pretty good villain. And based on the first 2 seasons, you would never guess that his character arc would be he would join the Rebels. Tarkin and Vader are in there a few times, and when they are in there, it's amazing. They're really good, but they're not really there enough to be effective as a long-term villain, right? They're not the villains of the show. They're just a villain that comes in and messes everything up. The only advantage to having the Inquisitors as opposed to season 3 and 4 Thrawn is the pretty epic lightsaber battles, which will be really it'll be missing from seasons 3 and 4. I'm glad they waited a little bit to reintroduce Clone Wars characters until season 2, because it really makes sure that the Rebel crew are the main characters instead of if they had introduced them in season 1, they would have to be sidelined in favor of the Clone Wars characters. Ahsoka is okay here. She and Rex aren't really the main characters, but the screen time they do have is pretty good. They're good characters because they're piggybacking off of Clone Wars. The finale for the season, for the first half of the season, is a great finale. Maul comes back, which you kind of weren't expecting. The Ahsoka versus Darth Vader, and the Sith holocron exists. The finale is great because it really sets up and showcases how good seasons 3 and 4 will be. Right, the finale of season 2 is really a beginning of season 3 and 4. So season 3 and 4 are pretty much better, although they aren't perfect. Thrawn is a much better villain than any of the Inquisitors, and Governor Pryce is a decent sidekick. She's like Ventress to Count Dooku. The main bonus of these seasons is that the characters actually get development. They actually sort of start caring a lot more. Even side characters that you'd never really expect to be a major player get some pretty good development that wasn't seen at all in season 1 or 2. You can tell in season 1 and 2 they really needed to set some stuff up to get down what they were doing, but in these seasons they really hit it right and get it hammered home. The only problem is that it's the end, right? Clone Wars had 2 more seasons after this, but Rebels kind of ends when they finally hit their stride. It feels a little short. Given the ending, I can't really complain too much, though. The ending's good. The ending is pretty good for all the lead-up. Thrawn's defeat is great, and the Ezra versus Thrawn stuff is not the best villain interaction, but, it's not pure gold, but pure silver, at least. I do feel Kanan's death was a bit rushed to the end. I wish there was more time for us to, digest the fact that they finally really killed someone, a main character. However, they do go right ahead in an episode or 2. Ezra does the same thing, which is sacrifice yourself to save everything, save everyone. I know some people, I've heard that some people don't like the Worlds Between Worlds stuff. I thought it was decent, nothing to write home about, but it's not bad. It's just sort of a plot device. The brief Ezra versus Palpatine was kind of interesting. It's not really relevant. All it does is mirror Episode 6 and shows that Palpatine's kind of doing the same thing in Episode 6 as he did in Rebels. Ahsoka being saved is okay. I don't think anyone really wanted her to die and everything. Everyone's just fine with her coming back. I guess it would have been, yeah, they clearly set it up for her to come back. They didn't show her dying, actually dying. Overall, the real reason I have to dislike the seasons is their, lack of connection with the wider rebellion. I've talked about this a lot. In season 1 or 2, they at least sort of had a reason for their, sort of bubble that they're in. But with season 3 and 4, it really feels like they've purposely avoided talking about interactions with the larger rebellion so that the rebels are in their own little bubble where only certain characters can interact with their team. I would have loved to see more, wider rebels versus empire stuff going down around the whole galaxy. Really show that it's a civil war. It's not just a small rebellion. The only extra thing I can talk about is Maul, but he isn't really essential to the whole story. He kind of just intrudes and then goes and tries to find Kenobi again. Eventually, Kenobi kills him. His story from the Phantom Menace to before the Phantom Menace to the Phantom Menace to Clone Wars to Rebels and maybe Solo. I guess Solo takes place in between then. Is really interesting. He has a really good character arc overall, but Rebels itself is kind of just not really about him at all. It's about Ezra. So the way Maul gets in is he kind of just intrudes into Ezra's life and then gets rid of him. So there isn't much to say here, in my opinion. Anyway, overall, I think Rebels is a decent show. It's far from perfect, but it's not bad. I wouldn't call it bad. If you're willing to watch Clone Wars and you sort of got to the end and really wanted more, Rebels will at first disappoint you, but you'll watch it because there's nothing better, and it's not bad, but it's just a little disappointing compared to Clone Wars. And you'll probably go to at least appreciate it or say, that wasn't entirely a waste of my time. I wouldn't really outwardly encourage people to watch a show, but I won't discourage people from watching it either. It's kind of just a decent show that's not great, not good, probably doesn't make top 10 list of Star Wars media, but doesn't make bottom 10 list of Star Wars media. I give it overall a 0.910 out of 1. It's a decent show. It's not a waste of your time, but you could use your time better.